Welcome, parents and guardians of the class of 2021 to Senior Night. We're so excited to have you here tuned in. I'm Fallon Balasone, the Director of Counseling at Columbia High School. And tonight we have a short presentation, but we're most excited about the live Q&A after, so please feel free to type your questions in as we go along, and we can't wait to get to them after. First, we do have a word from our HSA reps.
Hi, I'm Valerie Frost. I am one of your senior class coordinators on the HSA here at Columbia High School. I am so excited to welcome you back, as well as to encourage you to join the HSA if you have not done so.
Hi, I'm Lynn Keller, the other senior class coordinator. Congratulations on getting your student to senior year. If you've never joined the HSA, this is the year to do it. There are so many dates and deadlines coming up, and the HSA is going to be your greatest resource.
The HSA partners with the community. They communicate a lot of what's going on, any knowledge that comes their way. It's the HSA funnels that to us as parents. So they have the weekly e-blast.
It's filled with everything that's going on at school that week, everything your student may have forgotten to tell you.
If you click onto the HSA link within the Columbia High School website, you will be able to sign yourself up to get weekly e-blast. You also have the opportunity to join the HSA.
Your $25 fee goes towards supporting programs like teacher appreciation luncheons or the food trucks that show up for kids on half days. We also encourage you to join the Class of 2021 Facebook page, just another way for us to stay in contact. So here's to a great 2021 school year.
Thank you. Bye.
I do love those weekly e-blasts, that's for sure. And very nice editing skills, HSA reps. I'm impressed. Okay, and now we do have a word from our Columbia High School Scholarship Fund, who we love.
Hello, I'm Madeline Tugetman, and I am the president of Columbia High School Scholarship Fund. And I really hope I'm looking at you. I've never done this before. Since 1923, the Columbia High School Scholarship Fund has been providing need-based scholarships to Columbia High School seniors and graduates. The scholarships that we provide can be used toward any 2 four-year college, trade, or technical school. And they can be renewed for as long as the student is in school. This past year, at the beginning of COVID, we had the largest number of applicants apply. For the 2021 school year, we awarded approximately $177,000 to 135 students. We've had to cancel our largest fundraiser, the Red and Black Party that we usually hold in September. And we know that this May, our need is going to be greater than the year before. This pandemic has affected all of us. It's had parents lose their jobs, students lose their after-school jobs. And we're hoping to make up for this with donations. Please go on our website, chssf.org, read about us. Call the number that's on the website if you have any questions. It's me. I'll be happy to talk to you. And please donate. Wishing you, your family, and your student much health and a successful year. Hope to see you next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, that was chssf.org to help our scholarship fund, which sends so many of our students off every year for a higher education. And those students are now doctors and people that we rely on for many things right now. So let's please support the CHSF. And we can't forget a hello from your 12th grade assistant principal, Mr. Patterson.
Good evening, class of 2021. This is Mr. Patterson, your grade level administrator. I wanted to welcome you. I want you to definitely enjoy this night and get as much information as you can. Please be reminded that I need you to check your transcripts. Go through them. Make sure that all of the classes that you're required to take, you have taken, and that there's something listed on your transcript for that. I want you to also be sure that you have contacted your guidance counselor or received any information that you need to about any testing pathway that you may need if that is in fact the route that you are going to take. As always, this is your last year of school. I want you to go out with a bang. I want you to enjoy your senior year through these times as I know that you can. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Have a great one.
Thanks, Mr. Patterson. And now our school counselors wanted to say hello.
Hi, Mrs. Acarolable here.
Hi, everyone. This is Mr. Clyburn. Have a wonderful, wonderful year.
Hi, everyone. It's Miss Cortez, school counselor at Columbia High School.
Hi, CHS families. I'm Yolande Fleming, school counselor for grades 9 through 12.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Handler, school counselor at CHS.
Hi, I'm Jenny McDowell. Let's go Cougars.
Hi, everyone. I'm Miss Wendy Chavez, school counselor at Columbia High School. Let's have a great year.
I'm Stephanie Ranelli. I look forward to navigating this year with all of you.
My name is Courtney Rucker. I am a school counselor here at Columbia. I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adrian Williams. I'm the school counselor here at Columbia High School, and I'm very excited to be back this year.
Great. Before we get into our presentation, I just want to take a minute to just set everybody up here with a big reminder that all that really matters is the health and wellness of our students. We are going to be talking about things like college and the college process right now, but in the end, none of it matters if we're not healthy and hopefully happy. So I just want to try to keep this in the back of our heads as we do talk about some of the nitty-gritty of planning for life after high school and everything. Nothing's more important than making sure every day that our students are well and that they're connected with friends and family in a safe way, taking care of themselves, and that we're constantly taking checks on their mental health. So I just want to keep that in mind as we do go through some of this material. I know that for our seniors, particularly, planning for high school and this whole college process is closely related to mental health right now. So that's why we are going to proceed and talk about some of this. Just because I think getting a handle on this right now, getting those applications in, feeling like you have a little plan, that you're prepared, it can actually help students feel able to go and work on those social connections and that self-care if they kind of get some of this weight off the shoulders of this college application process. So we're hoping that this kind of helps move that along. Before we talk about college or planning for after high school, of course, we have to talk about graduating high school. We don't need to go through all the specific graduation requirements right now. They are available in our course offerings guide on the website and in many other places. But we do just want to take a quick minute to remind you to always be checking your emails because you will be receiving in the next few weeks an email from your student's school counselor with a very detailed breakdown of exactly which high school graduation requirements your student has already completed and which ones they are scheduled to complete this year. There will also be information in that email about whether or not your student has met the ELA, English Language Arts, and Mathematics pathway for graduation in the state of New Jersey. That is the benchmark that students need to meet in terms of that testing score, whether it be through the PARCC NJSLA or a PSAT or some other alternative assessments. If your child has not met this pathway, you probably already know this because your counselor has been in touch about other ways in which to meet the benchmark. Make sure you schedule your senior meeting because your counselor will go over all of this with you as well, live on Google Meet, one-on-one with you and your student, of course. Students are primarily expected to be at the senior meeting, but if the parent or guardian can attend, that's great. If you have not yet signed up for your senior meeting with your student school counselor, the links for the calendars to sign up are on Canvas. So you or your student can log on there to the counseling page, and we have our college planning module, and the links for the senior meetings are in there. They were also emailed out to whatever email you have in PowerSchool. So at the senior meeting, your counselor will ask you, what you've been thinking about in terms of what you might want your plan to be after high school. And there are many options, of course. In addition to college, there is trade school and joining the military, the workforce, and of course, our increasingly popular option of a gap year. So the counselor will discuss all of these options with you based on what you're saying you're interested in, but most of our students do end up applying to college. Over 95% will apply to college, so that is why we are focusing on the college application process now. And keep in mind, if you're thinking of a gap year, you still want to apply to college, and then you can end up deferring your admission if you decide to do the gap year. So you still do want to go through this process this year with your counselor. College during COVID. Well, it's new for all of us. Our counselors are doing an awesome job attending many different kinds of webinars and keeping ourselves informed about all the new and interesting things that are coming up here with the college application process during COVID. I think the biggest things to kind of note are that you can't really get on these campuses for tours. I know I've heard from some students that you've still kind of taken a little road trip and just driven through the campus. And if you were able to safely, you kind of got out and walked around and checked out the area. If you're able to do that, that's a great idea. If you're not able to do it, the good thing is that the colleges are working really hard to have a lot of online offerings on their website. So there are some really cool virtual tours now and lots of information sessions to sign up for to try to figure out which schools you definitely want to apply to. Test optional, that's definitely the big thing now. Most schools have gone test optional, where you can apply to college without having an SAT or an ACT. Not all schools. We are waiting and checking every day, hoping that all schools will officially go test optional. But most have, so please keep that in mind. At the same time, we are still looking into all options here at Columbia for what we can offer in terms of trying to help students get access to a standardized test. And then there's the big question, what will college even be like? What am I even, I wanted to go to University of Michigan, let's say, because of the big football games, or maybe a student wanted to go to RISD because of the art studios there and the facilities there. What is that even going to look like in the age of COVID? Will there be big sports events happening at colleges anymore? What will the indoor facilities look like in terms of access to students? So these are questions to think about. And I think in an interesting way, it can help students start to think differently about what exactly they're looking for in their college experience. Of course, we hope that the social elements will all start to reemerge as, your students go off to college next fall. But it could also help shift the focus here onto the academics. And really, what kind of programming are certain colleges offering to your student, whether they're undecided? A lot of colleges have really neat advising programs for undecided students. Or if they really specifically know what they want to do, it can help to get on there and look. Does your student really thrive if they have a close relationship with their teacher in high school? Then you might want to look for a college or university that has programs where there's maybe faculty in residence in the freshman dorms, or other opportunities to really engage with the faculty and have that one-on-one. So just some things to think about now that we're in a slightly different age in the college admissions process. So what do we do once we start thinking about these questions? How do we start moving this along? We got to get on SCORE. I think everybody is on SCORE. I think we only have a handful of students we're still working on getting on there. Everyone seems to be on our new college program SCORE. I hope you're liking it. We do see that students are kind of jumping right in and playing around with all the tools on here. So it seems like it's going well for all the students. The My Colleges page on SCORE is where you want to keep track of all the schools that you're thinking of applying to. You're also going to want to check out the calendar on SCORE, which students have access to through their account, because it is jam-packed with counseling center events. Not only do we have admissions representatives from all the colleges pretty much on a daily basis, having information sessions for just CHS students that they can sign up for, but we have our Teachable Tuesday series where we have counselors and other staff members running workshops every Tuesday. We have any other event that we hear about, we also post on there. So there's a lot of opportunities for virtual information sessions and the like by accessing the calendar on SCORE through your student account. One of the greatest things about SCORE is our ability to view admissions data. So what we're looking at here is an example of a college's scattergram. This happens to be Rutgers, New Brunswick's scattergram. What you're seeing is a bunch of students who applied to Rutgers University in the past about 15 years now. That's how much data we have. And the green students who are plotted by their GPA and test score were accepted. The red students were not. You're definitely going to want to get on SCORE and look at this information for all the schools to try to identify whether a school is a reach school, a level school, or a likely school. Reach means, you're kind of on the lower end of who they might be accepting. Level means they do accept students like you, but not everyone. And likely means, okay, they're really accepting almost everybody around me, so this is a school I'm likely to get into. It's a little challenging if you don't have a test score. You're only looking at really the GPA information. But let's remember, that's what the colleges are looking at. So you're still going to want to use these scattergrams. It is time to actually get on the applications. Most schools are on Common App or Coalition App. So a little note there that Rutgers University is only on Coalition. And then there's the Common Black College app where you can pay $25 and apply to a bunch of HBCUs. And if your college isn't on any of these websites, you do need to go onto their own website. They probably have their own application, like Georgetown or McGill, they have their own application. You want to start thinking about whether or not your student is going to be applying early action or early decision to any schools. Early decision is reserved for your child's top choice school, because if they are accepted, they must attend and they must withdraw their applications from the other schools. Early action is different. In most cases, you can apply early action to as many schools as offer it, and it's a non-binding agreement, so you don't have to go if you got in, but you'll find out a little bit earlier if you got in, usually by February 1st, as opposed to having to wait till April 1st. You want to know where you're applying early because those deadlines are typically November 1st, if not even a little earlier. We do have some October 15th deadlines, so it's really important that you figure out where you're applying to first, which deadlines are coming up first, so you can come up with a realistic timeline for completing all the work. Yes, you do have to sit there and fill out the applications and double check and make sure they're perfect and there's no mistakes, but the real time-consuming part are the essays. So this is just a screenshot of the Common App writing page, just to show you that this is where you access the prompts. Your student would pick one prompt of the options and write a statement about themselves for the colleges to get them know them a little bit better. I do think that this essay is going to be more important than ever this year because of the test optional policies and our students not necessarily being able to have taken a test. So the colleges are going to be looking more holistically at the application, which is a good thing. So they are going to be reading your essay and wanting to know more about you and what you're going to bring to their campus. So those are the kind of things that you want to think about when you're writing this essay. What am I telling the college about myself? Why is this going to make them want me on their campus? Those are the questions that you want to ask yourself after you tell your story. Make sure those questions are answered. Don't forget, it's not just the big essay. We do have supplemental essays, which are little college-specific essays that are in addition to the big essay. The big essay is going to go to all the schools, but then there's all these little supplemental essays that are just for certain colleges. So like Howard University might ask, why are you applying to Howard? And that's a separate essay just for Howard. If you're applying to 10 schools and they each have a supplemental essay or 2 or 3, we're talking about a lot of essays to write. They're not all super long. Some of them are short. They just want you to write a paragraph, but you want it to be really good and you want it to say something important about yourself and what you're going to bring to their campus. So it is time consuming. This is what you need a timeline for. Some time management skills need to come into play here. We're really excited to announce that next Tuesday, September 29th at 3 p.m., our Teachable Tuesday workshop is an essay writing workshop with our very own Ms. Buckholtz, one of our amazing English teachers. She is our AP English Language and Composition teacher, and she's really talented at helping students through this process, so don't miss it. The information is on our score calendar. The next step is to think about some of the other documentation that's going to be needed to send to the colleges. Once you get your application in, awesome. But now you need to worry about making sure that the school sends some of the other materials that are required. So first, let's talk about what the counselor sends and what the counselor prepares. That's the counselor recommendation letter and the transcript. We also have some other information we send, like our school profile, but that automatically goes. In order to get a counselor recommendation, you need to have completed the counselor recommender surveys and score. Most of you did, but your counselor will also check with you on that at your senior meeting. The parent or guardian also needs to fill out a parent or guardian survey in their account. Then you need to make sure that when you're ready to have your recommendation and transcript sent, that you move your schools over on the My Colleges page of SCORE to the Applying or Apply To column, either one. That triggers a request to your counselor on the back end of SCORE that you need your materials sent. That's how we know. That's your request, just by moving your schools over to the Applying or Apply To column on the My Colleges page of SCORE. That's all you need to do to request the counselor documents. Don't forget, some colleges require you to report your own transcript. Rutgers is one of them. So you need to get your transcript from the eDocuments page of PowerSchool, and you need to get onto the college's site on their self-reporting academic record site, and you need to type in every class you've taken and every grade you've gotten at Columbia, or if you went to a different school in high school from there too. So don't forget that really important part. That helps the colleges to process your application quickly. Of course, if you do end up attending that college, you will need your final official transcript from the high school send, and if it doesn't match what you reported, then they will rescind your admission. So make sure you check carefully when you're reporting your application. It's really important that you make sure you move your colleges over to Applying or Apply To at least 2 weeks prior to the application deadline. Teacher recommendations. This is always a popular question. So the first thing you need to do is actually request the letter from your teacher via email. Well, I wish it were in person, but we're stuck here with email. Just saying, hi, I really loved my experience in your class. It would mean so much to me if you would write my college recommendation for me. Are you able to? That's the first step, is getting them to agree to write the letter for you. Then you need to ask them what their process is, because teachers are not required to use SCORE. They're not required to use anything. They can tell you their own process. They could want to mail them in snail mail. A lot of our teachers are going to be using SCORE and have already created their accounts. So you just need to find out from the teacher what their process is. If your teacher's using SCORE, you're going to go back onto that college's page of SCORE, and there's a little button that says Application Documents. You're going to click on that, and that's where you'll see that that's where you request your teacher recommendations. Again, only request on there after you've already gotten them to agree to write the letter and them to confirm that they're using SCORE. And again, you need to make these teacher recommendations on the college's page, Application Documents button in SCORE, at least 2 weeks prior to the deadline. Oh, here's our little picture of it. So there's the little Application Documents button that you would have to click. And then it would look like this. You would be adding your teacher right in here. You'll also see in here that you're able to request a fee waiver. If you receive free or reduced lunch, you're eligible for a fee waiver, so you don't have to pay for your college applications. And you'll also see if you are applying early decision, again, to a school, there's something that you would need to sign in here to prompt your counselor to also sign off on that. And then here's just our little graphic of how to move those schools over from the following column to either Applying or Applied. There's three little buttons there to the right of any college's little window, and you would then move it over to applying or applied. That would signal to your counselor that you need your documents sent. And again, that needs to happen at least 2 weeks prior to the deadline. If you do happen to have test scores that you're sending, please note that your counselor does not send SAT or ACT scores to colleges. We don't have those official score reports. You do on your College Board or ACT account on their website. So it is your responsibility, the student's responsibility, to send the official scores through College Board and or ACT if the college requires them. And again, you would want to do that at least 2 weeks prior to the deadline too, if you're sensing a pattern here. You don't want to wait till the last minute. You want to make these requests so that you can ensure that everything arrives at the college and is processed prior to the deadline. You do want to think about any special programs you may be eligible for. Again, if you receive free and reduced lunch, you may be eligible for the Educational Opportunity Fund, which is a great program for our New Jersey state schools, if you're interested in one of those. And if you are interested in being recruited for athletics, make sure you register with the NCAA Eligibility Center. And always make sure that you are doing a college search independent of athletics. It would be awesome if you get recruited to play college sports. But what if you don't? You want to have another process going of schools that you would like to go to if you don't get recruited. Please talk to your counselors about that. Financial aid. There are 2 big forms that you need to file for financial aid. Everybody would need to file the FAFSA. That becomes available October 1st. Some schools also require the CSS profile, which becomes available on October 1st as well. So you need to make sure that you're checking your college's requirements for financial aid and filling out all those forms. And we are having a financial aid night. Next Wednesday, September 30th, we have a financial aid professional who's going to be having a presentation for you all. All this said, let's just bring it back to what really matters. And it's just making sure that our students are safe, healthy, and well. I know that this is all interconnected. So by giving them the support through this process, it can help with some of these mental health conversations we're having. So please, let's all try to remember that we're a team here, the counselor, the parent or guardian, and the student, and we'll just support each other through this process, the fall of senior year, especially during COVID, and just not forget along the way that the most important thing is staying connected, taking care of ourselves, and of course the mental health of your students. Nothing's more important than that to us. That said, we are very excited to now begin taking your questions.
Good evening, everybody. So thanks so much for being here. I just want to introduce our panelists here. We do have Principal Sanchez. Can you say hello, Principal Sanchez?
Yes. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited.
Thank you. And we have one of our amazing CHS school counselors, Ms. Mooney Chavez here. Thanks for being here.
Hi, hey, class of 2021.
Woohoo. And we also have Ms. Petrosia, our wonderful counseling secretary. I know she's having some technical difficulties, so I'm not sure she's able to say hello, but hopefully we might be able to see her soon. If not, I'm sure you speak to her all the time if you're looking for help from us. Oh, there she is.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for being here, Ms. Petrosia. And as you can see, I found this little background of the CHS auditorium. That's where I am. I'm very excited about this. So we did see a lot of your great questions here in the chat, and I see that more are coming. So Principal Sanchez, do you mind starting on a couple of the questions, and I'll try to catch up with some of these others that are coming in?
Sure. So I think they're in the Google Drive, correct?
Yep, they're in our doc there.
Okay, so so we were looking at the SAT. We're very excited to be offering the SAT on November 7th. The reason why we're doing the Saturday SAT, it just gives us more flexibility. We also have I think a better chance of getting more proctors. And so that's why we're doing it, I believe, in November 7th, as well as we are doing a second one in December. There was another question regarding the ventilation. So right now, there's been ventilation work being done at Maplewood Middle School, and we are next on the docket. So we feel very hopeful that our November date we can start and have a nice hybrid schedule at the very least. So Mr. Roth, who is our business administrator, he's going to be giving us an update next week on that. But our custodial staff has been working, putting in PPE, and we are looking to see if we can bring back some of our self-contained special education classes as well very soon. So we are starting to populate the hallways and classrooms, and so we are looking forward hopefully to give your seniors, our seniors, a slice of reality here.
Thank you. Okay, the questions are coming so fast. My idea of this shared doc, I'll try to get to some of those initial questions, and then I will try to catch up on all the questions in the Q&A. There was a question about, since sports are in the afternoon, will we run a college essay workshop at another time? That's a great idea. I don't know if this teacher is available at another time, but I will definitely ask. And if she's not available, we can definitely ask and see if there's another faculty member or someone else who's willing to do that at an evening time. It's hard to record these workshops because it's interactive with students, so there's some privacy issues there, just so you know, that's why. Does the counselor recommendation explain CHS's method of calculating class rank and decile? The counselor recommendation doesn't. The counselor recommendation is just about your child, but the school profile does, which is a document that is sent with every single transcript to all the colleges. It's something that we're working on finalizing now, but once we have it set, we're going to share it with you. So you'll all be able to see the school profile and all the information on that. It'll be finalized by the end of this week because we are starting to send documents to colleges next week. Ms. Mooney Chavez, do you want to take a couple?
Okay. So one of the questions, if you guys can hear me okay, what do the parents need to do in order to help with the counselor survey or counselor letter of recommendation? So there is a parent survey under your parent account, and it's found under survey. So it will, I think it's called the counselor survey. So we use that to help give us a little extra juice and meat for the letters of recommendation. There's something very beautiful in the way that a parent speaks about their child. So we kind of use, a combination of what we know about the student and what the student reveals to us in their survey, plus what you put in. So it just gives a richer letter for sure. Something else, the weighted GPA on score, Ms. Balsone, it is weighted, correct? Or can you flip it back and forth like Naviance, or is it solely weighted? Okay. Somebody asked what ED2 option is. And again, Ms. Balsone, just chime in if you want to add anything else. So a student can apply ED for this kind of first early window. And we know that's binding and you can only apply one school that way. But if they don't get into their ED school, there may be another school on their list that offers an ED2 option. So that's kind of a loophole of saying, yeah, okay, I didn't get into my ED school, but I'm going to apply to this school ED2. And if my memory serves, it's around like the regular deadline season. Just be like January-ish, okay?
Yeah, the ED2 deadline is normally January 1st.
Okay. Let's see what else. Can you just repeat, Ms. Balsone, the workshop day? Was it?
Sure. Next Tuesday, the 29th, is the college essay workshop with Ms. Buchholz at 3. And the next Wednesday, the 30th, is the financial aid workshop at 7:30.
Okay. And I'll chime in about the retired teacher. Yes, if the teachers are willing, the retired teachers are willing to write letters of recommendation, they can do that. So what will happen is, for instance, I had a case where a student asked me and I reached out to the content supervisor and said, hey, do you think, the teacher would mind? And I was able to reach out and get the personal email from the teacher and got permission and shared it with the students so they were able to connect. For that, it would not be through SCORE, however, because the staff member does not have a SCORE account. So there's a couple ways to do this. The student can add the recommender, the retired teacher, to their common app and a place that says invite recommender. So again, that section, everyone kind of thinks that they put the CHS teachers or the guidance counselor there. It's actually for recommenders that you want that are not CHS staff members. So if they put, let's say, Miss Miller, for example, or Mr. T, who retired, they'll put their personal email in that invite recommenders. Common App will send them an email, and then Mr. T will create a Common App account, write and upload the letter, and send it directly to Common App. And Ms. B, correct me if I'm wrong, they could, a retired teacher could also just write a letter PDF and send it directly to admissions as well, correct?
Yep, they could also drop it in a mailbox on the street corner.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Mooney Chavez. Yes, so the score calendar with all of our events, it is only available on the student side of SCORE. We have officially put in a request to SCORE for them to please make that accessible to the parent side. And the cool thing about SCORE is that they're a company that they do create features based on popularity of request by school. So there's this whole shared doc where all the schools who use SCORE kind of vote up different features, and SCORE is working on the most popular ones first. So I'm hoping that people vote up this feature to have the parents access the calendar. But please, in the meantime, have your student login so that they can see all those great events that we have planned. Principal Sanchez, do you want to talk about whether PowerSchool or Canvas will be the main source of grades for assignments during the year?
Sure. For the first marking period, we are putting our grades in Canvas. Canvas is one of the nice features of Canvas is that it's supposed to sync nightly with PowerSchool. However, both companies aren't playing as nicely as we expected now that PowerSchool has its own learning management system. So that being said, as we're ironing that out, we're having our teachers put in all grades in Canvas so that there's a one-stop shopping for parents and for students to understand where the grades are. And then they will be shifting to PowerSchool at the end of the marking period, and we will reevaluate that in the second marking period. We hope that the syncing feature will begin by then. This is happening to every school district. For example, my former school district, we had Canvas and PowerSchool, and we synced them on a nightly basis. That has stopped for that district as well. So unfortunately, there's a bit of a contention there, but right now as a parent, I would be looking at the grades in Canvas.
Thank you. And someone is asking how a parent can get on Canvas. I do believe that the student needs to add you as an observer, right? Principal said?
They have actually, if they were given a login information, if they email me, I can forward that. I just don't have it right here in front of me, but I can give them the directions that they, I don't believe a student can add someone. Oh. I think the teacher would have. So I will definitely give you the instructions.
Great. So we can email fsanchez@somsd.k12.nj.us for that. If we're applying to community college, do we use SCORE? Yes. So SCORE is what you need to use to request that your transcript be sent anywhere, whether it's a 4-year college or a 2-year college. Let's see. I think there's a question here about our supports for mental health, which is a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. Your first stop is always the school counselor. So any student and any parent who feels their student needs any support at all should start with the school counselor to kind of be able to describe what you're looking for in terms of support. And if the school counselor can't be that person, if it does need a higher level of care, we do have student assistance counselors on staff, Ms. Martinez and Mr. Lupus, who are available for additional counseling. We also have interns who are available for additional counseling, and we can give you other referrals as well outside of the school. But the first stop is always the counselor, because they'll be able to then kind of look at the issue and figure out what the best match would be in terms of setting you up and connecting you with someone else if necessary.
And if I could just add, one of the things we definitely think is really important is to have as many clubs and connections for our students. So we were very fortunate. Our Board of Education was incredibly supportive at the last meeting, putting forth our clubs And so our teacher mentors will be reaching out to our students to start joining clubs. We did create a virtual club fair for students. It's a great opportunity for students to meet with other students and their peers, and even take a leadership opportunity. Not just for college application purposes, but also to really focus on their passion. I know something that Ms. Ballasone and her counseling department, they talk a lot about, is that I think the old way of thinking was, students want to build a resume and be in as many clubs as possible. But in reality, that's not what colleges are looking for. They're not looking for someone who is like incredibly well-rounded that way, but someone who they want a freshman class that is incredibly well-rounded. So what they're looking for is that passionate artist, that incredible person engaged in as an activist. That's what they're looking for. So what we really want are our students to really feel free. There's so many great courses that we offer here, and so many other opportunities like clubs for those students. So I think that also helps in the social emotional learning.
Thank you. A lot of questions about how to access SCORE. If you don't have an account, please send an email to your student's school counselor. They will send you a unique invitation so that it's connected to your student's account. So just reach out to the school counselor. Ms. Mooney Chavez, do you mind answering about is there an advantage, even without test scores, of applying early decision to a college?
Advantage, I mean, there is just if your student has kind of the ballpark stats for the school, so we're in the same wheelhouse, they are finding that the acceptance pool in early decision is double that of regular. So it gives a little nudge, but again, it's not something we want to bank on, and it should be a school that the student really truly wants to go to. And Ms. Ballasone, this question comes up a lot in our senior meetings, and I just kind of wanted your head on it about finances. Is there a loophole if a student gets into their ED school and then they get the package and it's just not something the family can afford? What then, since it's a binding?
So there is always small print about that. I mean, obviously they can't tap into your bank account and just take your money for the tuition. They can't force you to come if you can't afford it. But it's not easy, I believe. I do believe you need to have documentation and things like that to be able to get out of the decision. So you would want to make sure that you have your taxes filed and that you have that paperwork ready to show them to be able to get out of that binding agreement. Okay.
I can answer some more, Ms. B. Well, one of the questions was, are there plans to add an ACT date to CHS?
We are not an ACT site at this time. I know it's something that we are interested in looking into, but we are not an ACT site at this time, so we cannot offer that. But we are excited to be able to offer those SAT accounts.
Okay. There was also a question about the applying to Rutgers. Do they need to do the application directly from the Rutgers website and Coalition? No, you do not have to do both. It can be one or the other. And correct me if I'm wrong, there's no real advantage one over the other, Rutgers directly or Coalition. My recommendation is to do Coalition app for Rutgers if the student has another Coalition school in their list. So it kind of less platforms for them. And
I see when reporting GPA on Common App, which scale do we use? When you're reporting your weighted GPA, it's out of 5. If a college has a deadline of 10/15, but states that all information needs to be in by 11/1, what are they referring to? They're referring to the transcript and the recommendations, and if they require test scores, those being received by 11/1.
There was a question about graduation requirements. I'm sorry, I just wanted to get that one in. Regarding graduation requirement, the state of New Jersey last year waived the actual regarding graduation requirement with the NJSLA, and they actually canceled that test. This year, we will have the NJSLA, or what was formerly known as PARC. So we don't know yet what the graduation requirements will be, especially for this senior class, since they did not have the opportunity to take the NJSLA last year if they really needed it, and they may not have taken the SAT or ACT or PSAT cutoff. So we don't know that yet if the state is going to be waiving that. So that is something that we are still waiting for.
Thank you.
But we are starting the portfolio process, correct, Ms. Balason?
Yeah, so if your child has not yet met a pathway, they're going to be invited to take the ASVAB, an alternative assessment. And if they're not successful or do not take that exam, then they would be put in a portfolio course to complete the pathway. So you'll be getting information from us on that. Okay, so we do have a variety of questions here about class rank, which we expected, of course, because it's something we've been talking about a lot on our side. So we are currently compiling as much data as possible to share with you because we do want to give you as much information in understanding how we calculate class rank and everything like that. So we're working on that, hoping to maybe get something to you tomorrow, if not definitely by the end of the week, since we are trying to finalize all this information for the profile as well, which we'll be able to share with you when that's finalized.
There was a question regarding the percentage of seniors included in the rank, and I know that was something that we've been talking about. This year, 90% of our students are included in the rank, which is an increase from 2018, where we did have only 86.65% of students in the rank. We haven't finalized the actual school profile yet regarding what goes on to score. And so we are still talking about some finishing touches there. So we definitely have taken your suggestions to heart. And we definitely understand although we haven't changed any procedure or policy regarding ranking, I know this is something that is, many students are anxious about, right? I totally understand that. But I just wanted to state that our policy for having students with 6 semesters worth of work is a policy that many schools have. Again, it's because schools want to make sure that a student who just moves in, perhaps from a less rigorous school, doesn't suddenly just bolt up and go all the way and become the next valedictorian without having that Columbia experience. And at the same time, we don't want to penalize a student who may not have had the opportunity to have AP classes, and if their private school or their school didn't offer that where they were. And so therefore their GPA would not be the same. Ms. Battleson, is there anything else about that specifically that you wanted to add?
I think you covered all of that. We do have a question here about the difference between early admission, early acceptance, etc. Okay, so
early action, I guess.
Yeah, so early action is usually a November 1st or even earlier or a little later, but around November 1st deadline for a school. If you do have your application complete by then, you'll find out if you got in or not by February 1st, usually, if not a little earlier. And it's non-binding unless it's a school that has restrictive early action, which some schools do, like Georgetown is one of them. Where if you're going to apply early action to Georgetown or a school with restrictive early action, you can't apply early elsewhere. So you have to just make sure that you're very carefully looking at the requirements on the college's website. Early decision, which also has usually that November 1st deadline, you can only apply to one school early decision. It has to be your top choice school. And if you get in, you are required to attend. It's a binding agreement. So that's the big difference. You can only apply to one school early decision, and you can usually apply to many schools early action. They both have those earlier deadlines. Why would a student not do an early deadline? Maybe they didn't have the best junior year and they want the opportunity to show their mid-year transcript from senior year, which would have their Q1 and Q2 grades on it. So they don't want to be reviewed by the college yet. They want the college to be able to see those grades before they make a decision on them. So that's really the big reason why you would wait, even if you're technically ready with all of your materials, if you feel like you need to show them a little bit more of an improvement this year.
How about what should a parent do in preparation for their meeting with their counselors their senior meetings.
So you don't have to do anything. The counselor is there to meet you wherever you are, whether you've thought about this at all or you're completely done with your applications. So there's nothing that you have to do. It is helpful if you've gone on Score Together and have populated that My Colleges page with some of the schools that you're thinking about. But if you also have no idea and you haven't started, that's totally fine. That's what the meeting's all about. And if you haven't started, there's probably going to be your initial meeting and then also a follow-up meeting scheduled. So don't worry, your counselor's here to take care of you wherever you're at in the process. No need to worry about prepping too much for that meeting. Okay. Class rank will not be recalculated based on first quarter grades. It's only based on the weighted GPA, which only includes final grades. So like quarter grades, your marking period grades don't go into your weighted GPA. It's that final grade that goes into the weighted GPA, and that's what the class rank is based on.
I could jump in with a couple. One of the questions was about, can the teachers help get the teacher recommendations for the students? We really encourage the students to do the follow-up. But Ms. Balson, what's your take on, a teacher just kind of after the student has maybe followed up a couple of times with no response and us kind of giving a professional polite nudge?
So if your child is trying to get a letter from a teacher and they aren't responding and the counselor's tried to help, it might be time to ask a different teacher. It's fall already of senior year, so we probably don't want to wait around too long for a teacher to respond. I would probably think about moving on and asking another teacher if you're in that situation. Does that sound right, Ms. Mooney Chavez?
Yes, sorry, I'm just praying that my toddler doesn't have a meltdown because this is happening right now. There was a great question that says in Score, a reason to add the personal bio and activities. And one of the things that happened today was that there is an activities section in the Common App. So it was kind of convenient for the students to kind of have that organized and maybe do some copy and pasting for that.
Thank you. I do love the questions about if parents can help vote up the features on Score. It's not for the parent, it's for all the schools that use Score. The schools have this shared spreadsheet, all their clients, Score's clients. So we put those feature requests in and they're working on it. They actually already did one of the features they adopted that we had requested. It happened. It's on the back end, so it's not something that you'll all be able to see, but it's something that helps us on our end. So they are pretty responsive to that. So we'll see. Thank you for that question, though. All right, lots of good questions here about Canvas. I think we addressed that, though.
Yeah, and I sent the link for the Canvas instructions there. But as people email, I will send you the same link.
Thank you. Yes, the class rank is weighted when it asks that question in Common App. When is the best time to do the FAFSA? So the financial aid form does become available on October 1st, and we recommend doing it on or soon after October 1st. The sooner the better. So if you have your most recent tax return information, you're going to be ready to go. There's a little IRS retrieval tool right on the FAFSA, so it should populate a lot of the answers for you if you're able to use that. If not, the form's pretty simple. You just kind of click into a field and it tells you which line on your tax returns to look at to write that number. So October 1st, put it on your calendar. It's a great time to sit down and just complete the form. If not, very soon after. The sooner the better.
And that goes for the CSS profile too. It opens October 1st. And Ms. Balson, I'm getting, even in my meetings and here in the chat, just kind of confusion about test dates. Okay, now that we registered at Columbia, should I cancel any future tests? If I don't think I'm going to do well, or my son's not going to do well, should I cancel a future test if we're test optional? If these early deadlines are happening, but then the tests are later than the deadline. So I don't know if you can kind of speak to any of this confusion.
So I wouldn't cancel if you got a seat somewhere, I would not cancel it. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I know obviously this is like new for all of us, so we're all figuring it out, but that's my opinion, is to not cancel a seat if you have it right now, because I know they're pretty hard to come by. So I would probably stick with that. And the individual college will be able to tell you if they would consider a score from a date that's after their deadline. The colleges are having to become very flexible right now. They have no choice. They obviously want students to enroll. They're looking to keep their enrollments up. So I think they're looking to work with students. And obviously the optional policies are making it even more flexible with the testing. So I would probably communicate directly with your schools to see if they would accept whatever test date it is that you have a seat for. That's a good question.
Can I just go into just two logistical questions about the school itself for senior year? Well, first of all, I'm going to send a list of some clubs. A parent asked for that, and I'll send you the actual virtual club fair that we sent our students, and you can have a copy as well. Regarding graduation, when I met with seniors this year, I just wanted them to know that it's my goal to make sure that they have the senior year that they deserve. So we definitely made sure to put in some extra hours to make sure that we could have a safe graduation portraits and pictures. I love the idea that they carried on some of those traditions and decorating their cars. They really need to continue that, take some pictures, send that so we can have the best yearbook possible. And yes, graduation is something that we're definitely looking into to have. We already talked to the Cody Arena. They are not as usual taking dates yet at this point, obviously, but we will be very creative and have an outdoor graduation if needed. In my former district before I came, we had an outdoor graduation. We had baccalaureate outside. I think we definitely need to keep our senior traditions for our kids. They deserve it. So that's something that we are committed to do. And we would love your assistance with that, with the home and school, so we can make sure these seniors have those events. Thank you, Ms. Carlson.
Sure. Have you heard if colleges will have less seats because of deferrals from this year? Okay, that's a very good question that we're hearing a lot of people asking. Obviously, a lot of students did defer their admission for a year when they realized that their college was going to be virtual learning. We do not yet know the impact of that, but I also just know that in general, there's less. I think the colleges are looking to ensure more enrollments and more matriculation because of the uncertainty of everything. So I feel like it's going to even out. I know that there's going to be a lot less international applicants to some of our schools. So I think that in a weird way, it's all going to even out. That's kind of what I'm hearing right now and what I'm seeing. But time will tell, of course, but I would just feel optimistic and positive about it, that it'll even out. And if you're able to, go and spend the tuition money and be able to go to campus and everything like that, they're going to be looking to have matriculation. So I wouldn't worry. I think that's all going to even out. There's a question about prom, Mr. Sanchez.
I'm sorry, I didn't see that one.
There's a question about prom. Do we have any plans for that?
We actually did talk about the contract for that, and with the venue, because we're still months away, that's something that we are just in the discussion phase. That's actually one of the things we couldn't do last year from where I work, only because of the social distancing issue. But again, something that we definitely will focus on because it's under that auspice of giving seniors their traditions. If we could do it safely, yes, we will find a way. But we are contacting all of our vendors and things like that we do usually months in advance to just make sure we have dates and we have places reserved. So it hasn't been canceled at all.
Yay, that's good to hear. Question, is it easier to do Coalition or Common App? I'm personally a Common App fan, but it doesn't matter. They're really the same exact thing. Oh, Ms. Mooney Chavez is giving a thumbs up. She's a Common App fan too. There's something on Common App where it's easier to see what the college's specific questions and writing prompts are before being finished with the whole thing. On Coalition, you'll notice that you kind of have to be finished with the whole main part of the application to be able to even see those college-specific pages. So I'm a Common App fan, but they both do the trick and they really both ask the same questions. So either one. My son transferred to CHS this year. Will schools accept letters from his prior school? Yes, of course. The letters can be from his prior school. And if there's any issue with those teachers from the prior school sending them, the counselor here is happy to help facilitate that. If you want to somehow get us the letters, we're happy to send them along from us.
Okay. I can jump in here really quickly to some of the earlier questions that I'm trying to highlight the ones that we didn't get to. If colleges are leaning towards test optional, I'm sorry if this got answered when I was chasing my toddler. What other points will they be looking at? So, obviously we have the GPA, the courses and the grades that speak the loudest to schools. The college essay and those supplements are also a beautiful place now where students can shine. And we also have the recommendation as well from the counselor and teachers. Any other, extracurriculars, any other places, Ms. Balsone, where students can shine?
Yeah, I think that it's also really important to spend time on those supplemental essays that ask, why are you applying to this college? I think that if the student is really able to show why they're a match for the school and what it is that they're going to bring to the campus, and really make the college believe that they would attend if accepted, I think that's really what's going to help the most. So I think that just kind of goes back to, picking schools that you're excited about and focusing on those and making sure you know a lot about them and that you can share that and how that connects with your interests and what you can bring to the table there. They're going to have to use holistic review processes this year. It's going to be a lot of work for them, but hopefully fun. That's the fun part of looking at all these applications, is learning about the students and not just looking at their test scores. So I think it'll be interesting in a good way.
Another question about, weren't the surveys due at the end of last year? Is there a different survey? No, that we are talking about the parent surveys, just because of life, sometimes the parent surveys and the student surveys aren't done. So that's where we are. We're just chasing right now. And don't forget, if you don't get those surveys in, you just kind of risk getting, not as rich and nice of a letter of recommendation. One question, why can't you choose ED2 if you have already chosen ED for another school? I'm assuming it's, do you have to kind of get denied from the ED school to put ED2 for a second school, Ms. Balsone? Why would that be the case?
On which platform are we referring to?
I believe it was, I'm sorry, it was earlier in the chat.
More information about that, whoever's asking or having an issue, please email your counselor and we'll be able to look into the individual issue and help you.
Great. Somebody suggested if we can share a PDF, because it's such a crunch right now with this college app season, if we can share some kind of PDF timeline of events for families. And there was also another comment our students have this issue. I have this issue. Is there a way in this all virtual world to just streamline information? So it's not checking the email, checking the Canvas, checking, just trying to group it all together.
Home and School does an incredible job with our blasts, and I look at those blasts and I try to put as many of those things that I see on my weekly email. So I'm trying to not replicate, but just making sure we have all of these events for you. But I see what you're saying about perhaps a timeline for senior events. We can definitely do that for you. A senior timeline, absolutely.
Sure. Yes. Okay. So a question about which tax returns you're using for the FAFSA. You would be using the 2018 tax returns now, and then you would be expected to go in the spring and update it to your 2019 information. And of course, your financial aid package are subject to change if your income drastically changed, either up or down. So that's how that works. Can you submit SAT scores to some schools but not others? Yes, you can change your answers on Common App for each submission. You just can't change it for a specific school once you've submitted there, then it's locked. But then you can go ahead and change your answers for another school. Good questions?
There was a question about the SAT versus the ACT. We've seen an increase in ACT probably as a trend 5-6 years ago, which is why the SAT definitely changed to actually I think be a little bit more similar to the ACT. Definitely stopped with those 20-minute sections and increase the time to allow students to not have that type of anxiety. So I bring that up because now we've seen an increase in SAT use, right, in the past few years. So I don't see a preference for colleges. There isn't like, SAT versus ACT. Ms. Ballison, in your experience, do you see anything like that?
There's no preference.
There's no preference. And now I don't see one taking the lead over the other now that the tests are similar, more similar than before, I should say.
Correct. Will students be allowed to attend CHS sports games, Mr. Sanchez?
So we are working on that. Right now, we're not ready to release that information, let's say, officially. But for football, which I think is the big question, we'll be handing out tickets. Many districts are doing things differently. So, for example, when we play Orange, they will not be allowing anyone on the field, right? Not parent, like if it's home or away. If you go to Orange High School, if we were the away team, no parents could even go there. We don't believe that's the case to do here on our campus, and so we are proposing that each child will receive X amount of tickets, and that's for family, but students will not be allowed into the football games unless they are a sibling and use one of the tickets. But that's what we're looking at. The other fields are parks. We will have people there managing it to make sure that people are socially distant and wearing masks. But I think the big question usually is football. Our proposal is at the office at our health department here in Maplewood just to get our final approval, and then we can officially announce what we're doing.
Thank you.
Ms. Ballison, there's some confusion about the tax return. I was saying 2019, and then I saw some parents said 2019, and then I Googled it's 2019, people.
I'm furiously typing into here, everybody. Sorry, I meant 2019. I don't even know what day it is, let alone what year it is. So.
Yes, it's prior. Yeah, it's prior year, not prior year. But thank you guys for clarifying that, because you stressed me out, because I've been told I had 26 senior meetings already with the wrong information. Oh boy.
In regards to the AP scores, releasing AP scores for colleges the same as releasing them to count as credits. Okay, so I think what you're asking is, do you need to send your AP scores as part of the application process? You can, you don't have to. You would end up having to send them if you want it to the college that your student is attending, if you wanted to see if you can get transfer credits for that. So you don't need to send them for admission. You can if you want to. But if you do want to try to get credits, you do have to end up sending them to the college that you matriculate at. So sorry, 2019 tax returns for the FAFSA, the most recent tax return that you've filled.
Ms. Ballison, I'm sorry if this was already answered, but I'm new with SCORE, so I'm not familiar. If the student uploads the information and it is submitted to the college, right? It gets uploaded to the college. Can they make additions? Like, for example, within like 3 weeks or a month later, they get their SAT score. Can they add that there?
So that doesn't go via scores, the school documents, all the school documents that we send, like the transcript and the recommendations, that the profile, that goes through SCORE. If a student does have additional information to send to a college after they apply, they absolutely can. They can't go in and edit their application, but they can absolutely contact the college and ask them to add anything to their file, whether it be a test score or an update or some award that they won. They can absolutely contact the college via email and just ask them to add it to the file.
Oh, and it's always good, right, when a student wants to tour a college and they have some time right now to get some virtual tours in, as you mentioned. But when they do a real tour, right, we always recommend not to just kind of walk on campus, but to actually go into the admissions office, sign your name that you visited, because we want to show real interest, right, to the college. So what should they do on a virtual basis?
So you definitely want to be signing up for those virtual tours and information sessions. The virtual tours, sometimes you don't have to sign up for those. That's just a link on the website. But they do also have information sessions online that you should sign up for. So they have record that you came. And obviously any outreach that you do to the college, they would also have that on record. So make sure that when they send you emails from the mailing list that you're opening those and reading them, because some colleges do track that. So any interest that you can show would be helpful.
Right. Thank you.
Ms. Belson, we're getting a couple questions about AP scores. So, is submitting AP scores to colleges the same as, what's the perk? Is it the same as sending the SAT scores? And also, could you talk a little bit about college credit? Because I know there were some outline questions about that.
Yeah, so you don't have to send your AP score as part of the application, but that's something that you can send. Usually we say that if you got a 4 or a 5, that's something you should absolutely send. You can still send the 3 and it doesn't hurt, but usually we say that 4 or 5 would be really helpful. And that's usually what they would consider for credit in the end, although you can definitely try with the 3 as well. I do see that, yeah, some colleges are having the Zooms, and don't forget that the college reps are having Zooms just for Columbia High School students. That's on our calendar there that you can sign up for. So that's really like a more intimate experience for your student instead of being on some like huge national Zoom call. It would hopefully just be a handful of students, unless it's a super popular school. So.
And I just wanted to clarify a question regarding deadline. Somebody threw out like, oh, it's November 17th, the early action deadline. So usually the early action and the early decision schools have similar deadlines. So usually we're looking at November 1st, November 15th, November 30th, that's around there. There are some of the southern schools, I think, South Carolina, I'm thinking, that has October 15th. So that is a little bit earlier. And then the regular deadlines usually falling in the January 1st, some even like February 1st. I know Rutgers has kind of an early one, December 1st, because they're competitive. So it really depends on the college, but that's about when the seasons are for those different ones. Another great question, if my son is able to do a SAT or ACT, is he able to submit his PSAT score? And the answer would be no for that one, okay? Because it needs to be a SAT or ACT. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Oh, our students, and this is an interesting question, our students that got CIPs last year that maybe cleared it or didn't clear it, are they included in the rank? Yes, they are, as long as they are a student who has been to Columbia 9th through 11th grade with no interruptions. And again, the rank is supposed to be pure. So, that's why that data is what it is. So the CIP actually doesn't have anything to do with the ranking.
Correct. I do see a few more questions about financial aid. I do encourage you all to come to the financial aid presentation next week because we have an actual financial aid professional coming. So we know a lot, but we wouldn't call ourselves financial aid experts. We usually defer to the actual financial aid professionals there. When are senior portrait retakes?
October 20, let me just check my calendar. I believe it's October 25th, 26th, 27th, but let me just verify that. October 21st to the 23rd. October 21st to the 23rd, Senior Pictures Makeup Day. Information from Lours will follow, so they will be sending another postcard. I think some parents felt like they may have thrown it out. It looked like spam or it looked like junk mail. So as soon as that information comes out, I will put it on our school website so parents can find it easier. But it will be on the 21st to the 23rd.
Do you need a separate application for an honors program? So that varies by college. Some colleges will automatically consider you for their honors program when you apply. It should say that on the application. On other applications, you may have to indicate, do you want to be considered for our honors program? You would have to say yes. Sometimes an extra little essay would pop up that you have to write. And then some schools have an entirely additional application for their honors program. So you do need to check with each college to see how it is they have it set up. Great. Okay, the questions do seem to be slowing down a little bit. They were so great. I feel so bad if we missed anything. It's just they're coming so fast, and this little Q&A box is so small. So I'm so sorry if we missed anything. But is Mr.
One that I saw that I'm going to throw to Ms. Balson, the college counseling expert. Does getting accepted early action jeopardize financial packages? I'm always so weird to answer these money questions. So on to you, boss.
This is the big question, right? It's the big question. And I don't know. Nobody actually knows, because how do we know what they would have given you? We don't know. But people love to talk about this, so it makes me think that there may be some truth to it. But that's unethical. That's discriminatory. So I don't think that the colleges are technically allowed to do that. So I like to think that no, it doesn't matter. You saying that you would come there shouldn't impact what you're eligible for financially, ethically. So any college would say that that's absolutely false. I mean, when you ask that at an information session or ask any admission counselor, they will say it's completely false. It's a myth. It's a rumor. But I can also understand why people wonder. And unfortunately, we don't know.
I'm also seeing some great questions, and maybe this is something that we can kick out. Is there kind of a centralized place where families can find more about grants and other financial aid? That was one great question. And then another question I saw a couple times about gap year programs. Where can families go to find out more about gap year programs?
Oh, sure. So I wonder so normally we direct people to a couple of local gap year fairs that typically happen in January. I don't know what these places' plans are for that right now. But I think Montclair High School usually does one. And I think the JCC in West Orange usually does a gap year fair, and that's what our students typically go to. And then at our college, career, military, and gap year fair, we also have gap year programs along with everyone else. I don't know what that will look like this year. I hope we can do it in person, but then we're talking about hundreds of people in a small space with barely any ventilation. So I'm just not sure what that's going to look like this year, but we will make sure that we give out all the information we can and connect the students with these programs as much as we can. I'm pretty sure, I will check that we do have gap year programs probably signed up to speak with our students like we do with the admissions representatives. But if your student is particularly interested and wants to be set up, we can definitely give them the contact information for the programs who came to our fair last year, who we know and have a relationship with. So we can absolutely provide that. Any other good ones you're seeing, Ms. Mooney Chavez?
Did you mention the place for scholarships and grants?
Oh, I usually recommend fastweb.com. I know some other counselors recommend unigo.com. These are just like scholarship search sites that won't like spam you a lot, and that are legitimate, because there are also a lot of scams out there where they try to get your information. Like, obviously never pay money to apply for a scholarship or anything like that. So fastweb.com, unigo.com, those are good search sites. And then anything that we find out about in terms of like it being a local scholarship, like for Essex County teens or anything like that, that might have like a little bit of a smaller applicant pool for our students, we'll be sharing that. That information usually comes like after the fall. The fall is all about applying to college, and then it kind of kicks into scholarship applications and applying for that kind of stuff after. So that's when we usually end up getting a lot of information from these scholarship programs, is moving more towards the winter and the spring. And of course, we have our Columbia High School Scholarship Fund. Students apply for that in the spring. That's typically when those scholarship applications come out. And we'll be sending out all the information about that as well.
Do we have any info about yearbook deadlines for submitting photos, or do we know who the senior? I know who it was last year. Do you know who the senior, the yearbook advisor is? Maybe we can refer them.
Yes, the senior yearbook advisor is the same from last year.
Okay.
I'm just looking.
Miss Cahill was one of them, and
yeah,
maybe Miss Crimney.
Yes, Miss Crimney and Miss Cahill. So I will email them to start sending out that information for deadlines, like baby photos, things like that. I know Mr. Mullen was speaking with Laura just the other day so that we can start to schedule our photographer to come to practices and games so we can get some candids and pictures of our fall athletes. So I will definitely contact Ms. Cahill and Ms. Crimney about that as well.
Okay. And Ms. Balson, do we have any advice for, some of our stressed out seniors that, the test scores just have been canceled over and over? Should parents just kind of push and encourage them to just try to get at least one sitting in? What would be your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we always have to gauge the stress level of our students because nothing is worth sending them over the edge. It's just not worth it. But if your child is all about it, then yeah, I mean, I always say with this process, push your student, and the student should push themselves as far as they possibly can without going over the edge, right? So we have to be very, very mindful of where that edge is, okay? So if we're up all night, if we're in hysterics, if we're showing signs of not being happy, then we have to press the brakes right then and there. But if your student is like really wanting to make sure that they have all the options and they don't want to be shut out of some of these schools that haven't gone test optional, then yeah, let's push them as far as we can in a healthy way without it becoming unhealthy, and see if we can get a seat for a sitting. But if you don't, I'm not concerned at all. I mean, most all the colleges have gone test optional, and I'm still sitting here hoping that the others who haven't do, because I mean, there's going to be students who aren't able to take a test. So I feel like it's an equity issue, and I'm just not sure how they're going to be able to maintain requiring the test. But so I just wouldn't be worried because most schools have gone test optional. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. Okay. Is the scheduled October SAT still on? No, so our SAT at Columbia High School, our site is for November.
Well, there may be students who have a special education IEP in October, and therefore they might be scheduled for that. But November 7th is the SAT, the official SAT for us. If your child has special needs, contact Mr. Ehrlich for that schedule.
Yes.
And another question about how do schools handle merit aid, and Ms. Balson, you can chime in. Just, that is something that when the student's transcript and the test scores are submitted, the schools kind of look and say, okay, wow, here's some merit. So it actually it has nothing to do with the FAFSA, if I'm not mistaken. It's just looking initially at those data points to see, what kind of package they can merit aid that they would able to give to the student.
Correct. The FAFSA is only for need-based aid. The colleges will consider your student for merit aid based on their transcript. So they have their own little algorithm that they use to offer that. And sometimes the merit scholarship offering will come with an acceptance letter. Sometimes that does come separately. So once you start getting those awesome acceptance letters, you kind of have to hang in there because there could be additional letters about the finances coming. And so sometimes it'll just say like, oh, you got an $1,000 merit scholarship, and students might think that's all they're getting, but that's just a little scholarship from the admissions office. There could be more coming from the financial aid office in a later letter. So that's important to remember. Okay. Did we miss anything?
I just saw, I think, Mr. Sanchez, I don't know if you're able to put the senior retake date in the chat. We had a couple of questions about that for parents that missed it. And then the recent question, what is the relationship between ED and merit aid?
Okay, so that kind of goes back to our question before about like, are they going to chintz you because you applied ED? And they should not. I mean, that is not ethical. That is not something they will ever say that they do. They will say that you will get the same merit aid whether you apply early decision or not. So we have to hopefully believe that that's true.
Another great one just came up. If you have an existing student in college, do you need to file a separate FAFSA for your current senior? Yes, you do. So the FAFSAs are separate for each student entering college. What is not separate, and it causes so much headache, especially to my families that have the twin siblings. I've been stressing this. The SSAID is the electronic signature for the FAFSA and how you would sign it, right? So your senior will need an FSA ID, and you can actually apply for that now. If you Google FSA ID, you can find the link. You don't have to wait till October 1st. But the parent will also need to sign the FSA, sign with the FSA ID. But you already have one. If you have an older student in college already, you've had to create it. You do not create another one for your current senior. Just think of it as your actual signature. You only have one. Okay, so your student will need one. If there's a twin, the twin will need their own, okay, and their own FAFSA, but you as the parent will only have one FSA ID.
Thank you. SAT scores usually come back approximately 3 weeks after you take the test. Okay, so someone was asking about when they meant the October SAT, they meant one that's in Milburn. So I don't know what Milburn High School's plan is for keeping their SAT or not. I'm not sure what the other schools are doing. I imagine that it's on if they haven't contacted you, but I have no idea there.
And I saw a question earlier in the chat, but I didn't know if it was very specific to this one parent asking, if their child is taking the November in-house Columbia SAT, and are they allowed to proctor if they're in a separate room?
No.
The person cannot proctor if their child is taking the test anywhere, even in a different building, different state, anywhere that day.
Correct. I mean, the last question here is just that what are the chances of the November SAT at CHS being canceled? I mean, we just opened it up, so we're planning to run it. I don't.
Yeah, we definitely have the dates that we have. We put a group of seats for who we know can proctor, and then if we get additional proctors, we will open more seats, and so we feel very confident in that. We worked very diligently with our buildings and grounds, with Mr. Roth, who's done an incredible job of looking at square footage of every single room in the building, the ventilation of each said room, and how we can safely do that. That took a little bit of time. And once we felt comfortable with the amount of students that we can have in the building, that's when we then went with the November date. So it was a lot of calculation there, and we're very confident that we can run it safely. It's already passed our health office here in Maplewood, so the only step now is just to go forward with it.
All right, so I think we hear you. So I think we know what we need to do. We're going to come up with an external calendar of the college rep visits and everything on SCORE for you. That is the only thing is that it's like a live document almost. So we're constantly adding things, but we'll do our best to kind of keep you updated externally outside of the SCORE calendar for that. And we're going to get some information about senior retakes, right? In the yearbook. Those are some of those other takeaways.
And then some information and data for rankings that they're interested in as well. Some parents listed there. So we'll send that out to students tomorrow, and any additional information that needs to be clarified.
Yes. Hopefully we'll have our school profile finished by the end of the week, so we'll be able to share that with you as well. And as always, we love your feedback. Well, I'll speak for myself. I love your feedback. I know you do too, Principal Sanchez. I know Ms. Mooney Chavez too. We love our families. So it's really helpful for us to actually hear about your concerns and your requests. So please keep them coming. It kind of helps inform the work that we do, of course. And I just want to thank everybody so much for tuning in tonight virtually. Of course, here I am in the auditorium, but I hope that we're able to one day see each other in the building soon. And thank you, everybody. Thank the panelists so much. Ms. Mooney Chavez, Principal Sanchez, thank you, Ms. Petrosia, for being here. I know she's going to be a huge help in getting some of this information out to you all. She always is. So thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful evening.